But really what I want to announce and say is thank you to Paul Scott Wilson for this morning. Paul, you have touched all of our lives through many years. In fact, 29 years ago, on my very first Sunday serving on this ministry team, I arrived for my very first Sunday, and Paul was the guest preacher. It was the summertime. I don't know if you probably don't remember, but you had just preached at the 50th anniversary of the Canadian Council of Churches, which was started here, so they came back for their big anniversary. You'd been the preacher. Everyone was so impressed. They had to have you in the summer, and I arrived, and that's when we met. And Paul's had an incredible influence on my life and ministry, and I know on so many of yours. And he had a great impact on this preaching fellowship just by encouraging us, particularly when we were making transition and change and expanding. And all along the way, he's been someone I've turned to and said, what do you think of this and that? And he's just been a wonderful voice of wisdom. And so we decided, Paul, that every year we are going to have what we call the Paul Scott Wilson Preacher. And it was really reinforced last night when Craig Barnes on the panel said one of the most significant preachers in his life was someone only 200 people had ever heard of. It was someone who was his pastor, who faithfully week after week proclaimed the word, listened to the people, and we decided that it would be wonderful to really uphold that week-by-week preaching ministry that you have so strongly encouraged. And by every year having someone that simply who preaches week after week, maybe has very little, no one even knows about, but is so faithful, and we have them preach a sermon at this event. And we want to name it after you because you've had such an incredible impact on all of us. And so I've asked Jason and Andrew, and if they would say just a few words. Jason was going to introduce you this morning. And where are you, Jason? Oh, there you are. So we cut Jason's introduction short. So Jason, you say what you're going to say.
Where is Paul? I want to address this to him. Paul, I've known your work since I lived in North Carolina, and when a student was really struggling, we made sure to get your work into their hands. And I've revered your work since then. Here's what's amazing, y'all, is Paul, through the weird gift of technology, is a part of the congregation I preach to, listens to me. I only hear the kindest, most thoughtful words from him. And I always wonder, how'd you know that I needed to hear that? After hearing that sermon, I realized what I really should wish that I heard from you is devastating criticism. But it's been such a gift to go from honoring your work, appreciating your work, to becoming your friend, and learning what it means to listen to another preacher and offer kindness.
Thank you, Jason. I think for a lot of people, 4 pages of the sermon was that exact moment where the toothpicks fell out. And Andrew.
Sometimes as a preacher, words fail us. And to give accolades and praise to Paul sounds almost hollow in comparison to the depth of what he offers us and has offered us. For the last 25, nearly 30 years, Paul has been a mentor and a friend of mine. I echo Jason's word. If you get a kind letter from Paul, it makes your day. And in a Sunday afternoon often, when preachers die, he sends a letter of life. And he gives a word of encouragement. And you almost say to yourself, did I really say that? Only he was listening with the ears of the Spirit and not just with the mind. But I liken Paul to the Apostle Paul. In fact, I've often referred to him as Paul 2.0. That his letters are in his books, and his books inspire preachers. I remember receiving a copy from Paul of a book that he wrote called Setting Words on Fire. And as I read this text before it was finally published, I realized that behind this was not only an enormity of scholarship, but a pastoral insight and wisdom into what it means to be a real preacher in a real church, in a real world. And you saw that today. You heard it today. He was speaking to us. And so if there is a love letter that I would like to send back to Paul, it is this. On behalf of all those who seek faithfully to preach your word in season and out of season, your words, your letters are our greatest gift. And I'm so delighted that of all the places where he's being recognized, the Lester Randall Preaching Fellowship is yet another one that speaks of what a wonderful servant of the word he is. Paul 2.0. God bless you, Paul.
I know we could go on with testimonial after testimonial, but when I told Paul we needed him in the room to thank him, he said, please don't. Yeah, But Paul, you're always thanking us, and we thank God for you. And bless you.